Experience and trying to find my own way. Sometimes I wish that I could fly away. Then I look in the center, suddenly everything's clear. Find myself in the sunshine and my dreams. And I'm looking into space and to find out who I am. And I'm looking to know and understand.
Western edge of the Adirondack State Park. We're in the Independence River Forest Preserve, and we're going to try and take a hike today. Our goal is 2.5 miles to the Independence River. Hopefully we'll see some good stuff along the way. Okay, here we go. Nice little forest pond ecosystem. An ecosystem is all of the living and non-living things interacting in an environment. So even though that's an aquatic ecosystem right there, it interacts with the land ecosystem surrounding it. The biotic factors in the ecosystem are the living things, and the abiotic factors are the non-living things, such as air temperature, precipitation, soil type, etc. Pretty cool little footbridge here. Hoping we'll see some wildlife while we're out here. This is pretty nice. If you guys are ever out in this area, you should check it out. Okay, when you're hiking out this way, you have to make sure you sign in on these trail registers. They keep track of who's coming out here, how many are in your party, what your length of stay is. And they use this not only in case you turn out missing, they need to know if you're in here and have checked out or not, but they also use it for funding purposes as far as keeping the trails clear, building bridges like the one we just saw. So we're going to make sure that we sign in here someplace. They need to change their book. Okay, and then we'll check out when we leave. We'll have an idea of how long we were here, how many were in the party. Sometimes on these trails you can find goodies, like raspberries. Now, even if you don't see any wildlife, it sure is pretty out here. Quiet. In recent history, Adirondacks has suffered from acid rain, which happens when smokestacks from power plants and other industries release sulfur dioxide and other chemicals like that into the atmosphere. Now, there's not a ton of industry around here, But what happens is it gets picked up where the industry is, and the wind currents bring it this way, and it drops in precipitation. And that is an example of some things that can happen to an ecosystem when it's exposed to acid rain. Now some ponds and lakes out here can handle a little bit of acid rain because they have specific rock types or soil content along the banks that acts as a buffer against the acid. Things like limestone. What do you think, Brody? Hey, what do you think? No trip into the Adirondacks on a trail will be complete without a little bit of a look for a Sasquatch. So we're going to give it a couple of tree knocks and listen to see if we hear anything back. I know you guys will appreciate this. Nothing. Again, hikes like this aren't always full of wildlife, but they can be very aesthetically pleasing. Another footbridge on the trail, crossing a little stream. Again, like I said, it's not always filled with wildlife, but that sure is a nice hike. Plenty to see, even with no animals. This is a series of falls, Gleasmans Falls. We're going to try and hike up a little further, see what we can see. One of the things you want to remember if you're out on a hike like this is you want to wear appropriate footwear. You don't want to be coming out here in flip-flops, because you're going to have to hike and climb over stuff like that. You can see there's the trail to get down here. Flip-flops are not the way to go. They're pretty. They're pretty. Kind of high up here. I think I want to take a nosedive. Well, we made it to Gleasmans Falls. It was a hike. You didn't really see too much of it, just some little bits and pieces, but there was some definite climbing involved. It's a long way down. Can't see what the camera's pointing at. There we go. Gleasmans Falls. Alright, we made it to Gleasmans Falls. We're on our way out. I would be remiss if I didn't give you some science information that we're going to be covering in class this year. For my earth science guys, we're going to be talking about weathering and the way rocks and the earth get broken down as an opposing force to the way mountains get built up. One of the types of weathering is mechanical weathering. And one of the factors that happens in that is this freeze-thaw cycle. And what happens is you see rocks, see the cracks like this in these rocks? They start out as microscopic cracks. And during the winter, snow will melt or rain will get in these microscopic cracks and it refreezes, and as it freezes it expands and it starts to break the rock apart. And year after year these cracks get bigger and bigger, and this whole freeze-thaw cycle keeps repeating itself. And eventually, through mechanical weathering, these rocks will be broken down. For my environmental science guys and my biology guys, we're going to be talking about two categories of plants, bryophytes and tracheophytes. Bryophytes are mosses. They look like green carpet. Remember, bryophyte starts with a B, basic. These are the basic type of plants. They don't have any vascular tissue. In other words, they don't have any veins like some plants do. A good example of a tracheophyte or a vascular plant are ferns. You guys are all familiar with ferns. If you were to cut one of these and slice it and set it on a microscope slide and look down on it, you would see what look like the ends of straws. Okay, some plants have them scattered throughout the whole stem, and some plants have them arranged in certain bundles. Brody's freaking out about something. So bryophytes are the basic plants. These are mosses and liverworts. We're going to learn more about those. Tracheophytes are vascular plants. That's just one example. We're going to be learning more about those too. Okay, we made it out of Gleasmans Falls. We signed out. An introductory look at some things like ecosystems and biotic and abiotic factors. We talked about weathering of rock. We talked about bryophytes and tracheophytes. And these are just some of the things you'll be learning this year in my science classes. I hope you enjoyed the walk. Thanks for coming along.